1922 in Dorchester County, Maryland. Now, I was born into the institution of chattel slavery. That meant that my life was not my own. Anytime I was called, I had to work, and I didn't get paid. They took advantage of the system. And for me, I didn't like that very much. I don't think you would like that very much either. But I decided as a child that I was going to do something about it. When I was 5 years old, my captors, they rented me out to a lady named Miss Susan. And my job at Miss Susan's house was to watch her baby because she didn't want that baby to wake her up. So all night long, I stayed awake with that baby to make sure that her child did not cry. And I did pretty good at that job. Now, Miss Susan was the first place I ever saw the sweet treat of sugar. Miss Susan had some sugar cubes on her counter, and I couldn't resist. I didn't know what it was. I had never seen it or tried it. So I reached up there with my little 5-year-old fingers, and I tried a sugar cube, and it was good, but there was a punishment. Miss Susan didn't like that, and she whipped me good and sent me back to where she had rented me from. Well, I stayed there a little while, and then I was rented out again to the cooks. Now, the cooks initially took me in at 6 years old to do the sewing and help out. But they were must-trap hunters. And they didn't like the job that came with it, so they gave it to me. I had to go into the icy cold water and fish out those muskrat traps and bring them back. Well, I did okay at that for a while. But one day I went into the water, and when I came out, my life wasn't the same. I was in a fever, and I felt unconscious. And well, the cooks, they didn't know what to do with me. They didn't want me there, so they sent me back to my mama. And my mama loved me and nursed me back to health. They weren't sure for a while if I was going to make it or not. But I'm right here, and I made it. I made it okay. You know, I made it on into my teens, and I was in a store. And there was a young enslaved man that didn't like it. He was running away. And he was at the door, and I was before the door, and the store owner was behind the counter. And as he took off and started running, the owner of the store told me to catch him. Well, I was so shaken and paralyzed with fear, I just looked. I didn't know what to do. And part of me wanted him to be free. And I let him out the door. And as a result, the store owner picked up a weight and they threw it. Now, he claimed that he was trying to hit that boy outside the door, but he was long gone. Do you know that that weight hit me in my head? And for the rest of my life, I had a form of epilepsy where I would fall asleep. But really quickly, I want to go back to the muskrat, because I almost forgot to tell you. That's why my voice is so raspy. It never recovered from going into that water. That was one of the effects. So now I carry the effects of the raspy voice, and I carry the effects of epilepsy from being hit in the head by the weight. Those were two things that I took with me for the rest of my life. Now, everyone that heard my voice, they were just amazed when I began to sing, because when I sang, I was so clear, and they said it was like angels singing in the room. That was the only time my voice would clear up. Everything would go away, all the rest, and you could hear it loud and clear. Now, you know, a lot of people know me as a conductor of the Underground Railroad. But how I got there is, while I was enslaved, I decided one day, I heard that they were going to sell me, and I decided to slip off to freedom. And I made it all the way there. And when I got there, it was so lonely. It was just me. I had no family. I had no friends. I was in freedom by myself. And that made me think. And And I came to the conclusion to go back and to free my family. Because there's not enjoyment unless everyone that you love is dead. So I tiptoed back and I got my family members. And I decided, on this journey, I'm going to make sure forever, every time I go, no one can turn back with me. And I did keep a gun on my side. Now, I never had to use it on anybody, but I wouldn't let it